Hello guys, it is a pleasure to be here with you today. I am here to talk to you about standardized tests. We are going to learn about the peculiarities these have, certain common characteristics they have, but first we need to discuss what a standardized test is. Now, a standardized test is a test that allows everybody taking the test to be submitted to the same conditions, right? That's why we call them standardized. Now, these same conditions that we talk about is that people have the same time. If you have 1 hour, I have 1 hour, Miguel has 1 hour, Stephanie has 1 hour, right? We also have the same test. In a standardized test, you cannot be given one test and your friend is going to be a different test, possibly an easier test, right? Now, but that's all a standardized test can control. The standardized test can control outside influences. What cannot be standardized in these tests? This right here. What is going on inside you, what you are thinking about, what you are going through, whether you're nervous, whether you're calm, whether you have problems at home, whether you didn't sleep well. All of these are conditions that affect your results in these tests. And that's why it's very important that when you go and take them, you are as relaxed and as prepared as possible so that things go out great. Why do we use standardized tests? In general, standardized tests allow us to determine how good an institution is at teaching, and hence how good their students are. If their students are good, then the institution is good, and vice versa, right? That's what we think of when we hear about these institutions that are getting excellent grades. Now, English standardized tests are particularly used to determine your likelihood of success in an English-speaking academic or work environment. That is to say, an English standardized test seeks to know that you are going to be able to fit right in the conditions where you're thrown at. That is to say, if you go to school in a place where they speak English natively, or if you are planning to work in a country where they speak English as their native language. So that's what standardized tests do. Now, does everybody support the use of standardized tests? No, not everybody supports the use of these tests. And no, it's not only students. Actually, there are lots of people that do not support the use of standardized tests. Of course, some students may not support doing these tests because, that's very stressful. Yes, for some people, it's very stressful. Now, the reason why some opponents say that we should not use these tests is because they say that institutions are failing to focus on learning. That what they do is to focus on their students getting the necessary or the desired scores, and that they focus on getting students to do well enough for the test and not to do well enough for knowing what they are supposed to know. They don't focus on making all this learning going on in the classroom to be meaningful for students. That they only want to get very good grades so that they can say, hey, you know what? Our school is the best in town. It happens everywhere, right? Some institutions do some other things, like in the US, for example, some very big school, Ivy League schools, what they do is that they seek for the best students at schools, and these students get a scholarship. Is this scholarship just, to benefit these students? Not really. Well, yes, of course, the students benefit, but it's not only that. The institutions do this because when they take tests, when these students take tests, and because these students were brilliant, so the school looks good. Anyway, these opponents to these tests say that these tests are causing severe stress on students, which is not entirely false. Students face a lot of stress when taking these tests. Not everybody is a very good test taker. Some people have a hard time taking them. Now, standardized English tests in particular are criticized because they are evaluating aspects that are not purely linguistic. They focus, they say, on American and English cultural issues. There are cultural aspects that we do not understand fully from other countries. And by not understanding these cultural concepts, this causes us to not being able to answer specific questions. These questions are obviously related to culture, right? So that's an issue. To give you an example of this cultural issue that we may face is the concept of student dorms. For us, it doesn't make sense to think that all of the students could be living together, or a big number of students could be living together in a college, yes, in the college dorms, and that in this floor you are with your boys, with your homies, and in the next in the upper floor there's the girl that you like, and you have parties all the time. Well, maybe it's not like that, right, in reality, but they do party a little in college. So for us, this concept of living together in a community with your classmates, it doesn't really make sense. I mean, yes, we understand what that is, but there are cultural aspects that are different for us, right? Which are the most widely used English language standardized tests? Well, we have many. We have, for example, the Cambridge tests. Cambridge has different tests that are used to measure the English proficiency. But we also have some others that are probably more well known. We have TOEIC, TOEFL, and IELTS. And I am going to be talking to you about these tests. Let's talk first about IELTS. IELTS stands for International English Language Testing System. The IELTS has two versions. It has the academic version, and it has the general training version. Now, the academic version, excuse me, the academic version is applied to students who want to obtain a degree. It's particularly used for medical professionals who want to continue their studies. There's also a general version of the test. This version is mostly used for immigration purposes and in order to gain work experience. Both the academic version and the general training version have the same sections. They have the listening section, the reading section, and the writing section. This is the grading chart for IELTS. As you can see, it's a little different from other tests. If you are familiar, for example, with TOEFL or TOEIC, you know the scores are very different. Here we work with bands, and the highest band is 9.0, and it describes an expert user of English language, and the lowest band is 1.0 and indicates a person who does not speak any of the language. Where can we find this test being applied? Mostly in China, in India, in Pakistan and in Canada. Well, as for today, I don't know if it's used much more in some other places, but this is the information that I found out. Let's talk about TOEFL. TOEFL is the test of English as a foreign language, and this test is particularly used when you are applying to study in another country, when you're planning to study overseas in an English-speaking country. And even in some countries where they do not speak English, they ask for you to get a specific TOEFL score. I know that in Japan there is this program, this scholarship program, where they ask you to present results of TOEFL tests. Mongo Kawakuchu, something like that. I don't really remember the name of the program, but they require that you present TOEFL. Even in Spain, I think there are some schools that require that you present TOEFL results. Now, this test focuses on academic settings, academic vocabulary, and in general, the communicative conditions encountered in college. Okay? So this test focuses on these different aspects. It's primarily focused on academic life. And I'm going to stop this video right here, and I will continue talking to you about TOEFL in the next short video, guys.